Ready? Simulator lab? Okay. This is the simulator lab at the Johnson Space Center where our Ohio astronauts are actually inside a shuttle mock-up, practicing everything they'll do in orbit. Come on inside, we'll show you around. This is the flight deck of the space shuttle. All 5 astronauts are up here. They're going through the simulation. Now, they tell me that we're about 160 miles up. We're traveling at 18,000 miles an hour, and we're someplace over South Africa. Well, not really. Down here is what's called the mid-deck of the shuttle. This is actually the galley area, the place where the crew stores food, and then they cook in here too. This is sort of a souped-up version of a microwave. Very realistic, although it's a little larger than what you'd find on the actual shuttle. They even have a door to outer space. And when you gotta go in outer space, you gotta go. And this is how they do it. This is the Waste Management Collection System, a toilet with a really powerful vacuum cleaner. It's important to have perfect potty posture when you're in space, and to learn that, well, the astronauts have to train. This is a potty trainer. You have to learn how to place your posterior perfectly so you get a perfect seal.
Do one more.
Okay?
Discovery Houston, we'd like
At Mission Control, it sounds like they're in space. It looks like they're in space. It feels like they're in space. But this space shuttle hasn't left the ground.
Flight deck crew.
For the last time inside this shuttle mock-up at the Johnson Space Center, astronauts are practicing their mission to turn a satellite loose in space.
This is the flight deck of the space shuttle. All 5 astronauts are up here. They're getting ready to deploy the satellite. Now, where are we?
Currently 160 miles up over the Indian Ocean.
Mission specialist Don Thomas and the other 4 crew members have spent hundreds of hours in simulation.
Want to know how realistic things are in this mock-up? Well, take a look out the window. See what you see. That's the satellite in the payload bay.
Discovery Houston for the DAP.
It's just as realistic in Mission Control, where technicians monitor everything that happens to the shuttle. And you won't believe what can happen.
A lot of times we'll throw in engine failures where one of the main engines fails.
Tim Terry's job is to make disaster happen, and he is diabolical. You name it, and Tim Terry's crew will make it fail.
We're going to go back and troubleshoot the IUSA computer, which failed earlier.
So how do you solve a problem like that?
With lots of help from the ground, typically, and using these books.
Commander Tom Henrik says these simulations are so real, you forget they're simulations.
We think that engine really quit, or that computer has really hard failed, and it's life-threatening. So what they're doing is training us extremely realistically for what we're going to experience in flight.
Movement on the A side, and we'll end up with B, computer in control, and A down.
The sun has yet to rise over the Ellington Air Force Base, but astronaut Mary Ellen Weber is already here. When you're going into space for the first time, you don't want to be late.
In the past few weeks, I've definitely, become more comfortable. I feel like I'm ready to do this.
Hi, it's Tom Henricks. The 70 crew is about to leave Ellington. We should be everywhere in about 30 minutes.
Commander Tom Henricks and the other astronauts will fly themselves to Florida, an hour-and-a-half trip right across the Gulf.
It's a global positioning satellite system receiver, so that we can tell exactly where we are and fly it point to point.
4 of the 5 astronauts are from Ohio, so you could call this the Buckeye mission. Nancy Curry is an OSU graduate. From 4 small Ohio towns they've come, and together they're heading for the stars.
Morning. Morning. It's a great day to fly. Look at the clouds are clearing up.
When you're an astronaut, every day's a great day to fly.
You guys have a good one.
With the moon peeking over their shoulders, the astronauts fire up the engines on their T-38 jets. Nothing like being in the shuttle, but flying is flying. So after training for nearly a year, spending countless hours in simulators and trying to prove they have the right stuff, our Ohio astronauts are on their way to Cape Canaveral. Astronaut Kevin Kriegel is ready for the dress rehearsal.
There you go down to Florida, and you strap in the real suits, in the real rocket, and you go through all the things that you're going to do just before launch. The only difference is they don't light the candle.
That won't happen for 3 weeks, the day the Buckeye mission is launched into space. Kurt Ludlow, Eyewitness News, Houston.
Discovery Houston for payloads. Your go-to.
They're from each corner of Ohio, and they've come together for a trip into outer space.
Here we are, 4 people from small towns in Ohio.
Colonel Tom Henricks commands the mission, and when he looks out over his crew, he sees the faces of fellow Ohioans, Mary Ellen Weber, Don Thomas, and Nancy Curry.
The saddest day of my life, I thought, was when I graduated from Ohio State.
The first time Nancy went into orbit, she carried an Ohio State banner aboard. She'll carry it again, and on each future mission, and give it to the university when her career is over.
My goal in life was to dot the I in Script, Ohio, because I remembered as a student, you know, everybody would be up in the stands wondering who was going to dot the I.
Kevin Kriegel isn't from Ohio, but the governor made him an honorary Ohioan, and it was Kriegel who helped design the mission patch worn by the astronauts. It should look familiar. The Block O will be worn in the heavens.
0 and liftoff of the Space Shuttle Discovery and the upper atmosphere.
And when Discovery rockets into space, it will carry more than a satellite, experiments, or cameras. It will carry the pounding hearts of Ohio.
Roger, roll, Discovery.
Kurt Ludlow, Eyewitness News, Houston.
Houston now controlling the flight of Discovery. Roll program complete. Discovery now in a heads down